So that's the tent pitched. I don't know if you can hear the wind. I just finished cleaning my teeth there and I saw someone pop up over the hill walking towards me. Hello and welcome to another wild camping video, today coming from the hot and sunny Black Mountains in Wales. You might be able to see the Sugarloaf just over my shoulder here, so I'm up near Llanbedr and I've got about a 12-mile loop to walk on this camp. I've got about 8 miles today and then around about 4 miles tomorrow, and I'm going to be camping somewhere up on the ridge near Mynydd Llysiau, and I hope to have some really good views. It's going to be a hot one, so I probably won't do much talking on the way up, but I'll catch up with you properly a little bit later on and I'll talk about my gear. I'm about a third of the way through my walk now, nearly halfway. I've got around about 4 miles to go now, I think. The trig point just behind me here is Pencerrig Calc, which stands at 701 metres. So if I spin you around slowly now, you'll see that those views are really starting to open up. There is some thin cloud up above now, which has actually been quite nice to give me a break from the direct heat of the sun. And straight over this trig point, you'll be able to see the Sugarloaf in the very far distance over there. It's getting a little bit windy up here now, so I'll keep walking and I'll talk to you in a bit. It's a bit too windy to talk much now, but I'm on top of Pen Alcmawr now. You can see the trig point there. This is at 719 metres. And if I spin you around, if you look just to the left of the trig point in the far distance here, you might be able to see the peaks of Pen y Fan and Corn D, I believe. That might be Cribben we can see there, but that's the central beacons over that way anyway. And I am going to be coming down here and pitching somewhere along this ridge along here. It is, I don't know, maybe 20-25 mile an hour wind hitting me at the moment. It is quite strong. It's blown my cap off a couple of times, but I have brought a stronger tent with me tonight, so I should be okay. Time to crack on with that trail. I'm about 6 miles into my walk now, and I've reached the point where really anywhere from where I am now along this ridge would suit me for tonight. So already I'm looking at the ground over here. You can see it's quite scrubby, quite sharp and spiky. Right here on the footpath itself is fine, but I won't be pitching my tent on the footpath because that's not what we do. So really I'm just going to keep an eye out, and anywhere along here will do me for tonight. The wind is, just as I speak, the wind picks up. I was going to say I'm a little bit sheltered from the wind here, but it is still getting through. I've got really nice views here out to the Brecon Beacons. I just love these layers as they step their way back, all the way back to Pen y Fan in the far distance. Over here we've got Castell Dinas, or Dinas, I think it's Dinas, and then the Dragon's Back that leads up away from it. And it's a really nice evening. It's still quite warm, the wind is cool. I've got some warmer stuff for tonight, not too much warm clothing, but I'll talk you through my kit once I get unpacked. I've just been walking around for about half a mile trying to find somewhere better, but this is going to be my pitch for tonight. There's a little blob of heather up there, and then basically I'm going to align my tent this way, which looks fairly level for lying, and also the wind is coming directly from that direction, and we've got a little bit of a raise here, so if I just duck down a little bit, the wind is a little bit weaker there. And because the tent is widest at the bottom, it's a sort of triangular shape if you look at it end on. The widest bit is at the bottom, so if I can shelter the bottom half from the wind a little bit, that means that we've only got that narrower top section. It's going to catch the wind, so it should affect the tent less. It should be a bit quieter, should flap around less. And the tent of choice for tonight is back in my Terra Nova Southern Cross 1. So because it's so much warmer now, and because the ground up here isn't rocky or too spiky, I took the footprint off the bottom of the tent. I'm just going to duck down here to get out of the wind. I took the footprint off the bottom of the tent, and that saves me, I think, round about 350 grams of weight, which is quite useful. I shouldn't need the extra protection, and because the ground's dry, the footprint doesn't need to do its job of keeping condensation down so much in the night. So, I mean, the ground is absolutely parched everywhere, but yeah, that's a handy little weight saving there. I've also saved about another 700 grams by bringing my Cumulus Quilt 250 with me today instead of my Berghaus sleeping bag. It's the first outing for the quilt this year. I think it should be warm enough. Temperature in the night is, I think, going to be about 11 or 12 degrees. Feels like 7 Celsius, I think it said, with the wind chill, but that should be in the territory of the quilt now, really. I have brought some thermal clothes and a down jacket as well, just in case it cools down in the night, so I should be warm enough, and I still save weight and volume over bringing that Berghaus sleeping bag. It's 6:30 now, so I've got 3 hours till sunset, which is a real luxury for me. Anyway, let's get this tent going, and I think I'll just play some music over because it's too windy for you to hear anything. So that's the tent pitched. I don't know if you can hear the wind as strong as it is. You can maybe see my jacket blowing around here a little bit, but the wind is quite strong up here. I'd guess it's probably a constant 15 miles an hour, possibly even nudging towards 20, and then the gusts are definitely going to be over 25 miles an hour, maybe 30, probably not quite as high as 35 miles an hour. So I'm quite grateful for this little bit of shelter I've got here. It's not a lot, but you can see that the tent is at one level and then the ground slopes up just a little bit. And if I come down low, actually I'll go to the end. So if we look down low, the tent is at its widest on that, in the bottom half really. So that's where it's got the really big cross-sectional area for the wind to hit and treat it like a sail. As you can see from this tent though, it's nice and pointy on the end, so the wind hits this smaller end section and then it's really just a bit of a knife blade. The wind just kind of skims off the side. But because this lower half is sheltered a bit, all we've really got exposed to the wind is the top section where it's quite narrow, and you can see that although the wind is quite high, the tent is not flapping around like crazy. And I really like this tent for that. If you look at that panel at the bottom there, It's moving around a little bit, but it's not too bad. And because this tent doesn't flap around too much in the wind, it makes it nice and quiet in the night. So yeah, I'm really glad I brought this one. I think if I'd brought the Nature Hike Vic one, I don't know if it would last the night actually. It might get thrown about a little bit too much, but this one, it pitches really well every time. It's really nice and taut. I like that you've got the little bungees at various points around the away from the corners, so you've got the 6 main pegging points, but then you've also got these little bungee points, which just keeps those panels held down to the ground nicely. So I'm going to get my kit in now, and then it's going to be time for some food. So I've got my usual sleep mat, the Thermarest Neo Air X Therm. I'll get that inflated now with my little Flextail Tiny Pump 2X. Really useful bit of kit. I always used to see people using these and thought they were just being tarts. Really lazy, why don't you just pump it up using the inflation sack? But seriously, these are so useful. It takes 2 minutes to pump up the mat. It also then draws all the air out of the mat in the morning when you just flip the adapter around to the other side. And at the same time, this can be your lantern at night time. If you'd like one of these, check the link in the description, and there's also a discount code in there where you can get 15% off any of these Flextail products. And before I get my mat inflated, I'll just give you a quick look at my Cumulus Quilt 250. I love the pack size of this thing. It's tiny, it's 500 grams. I used this quite a bit last summer, particularly when I was bivvy camping, but just the size of that compared to a sleeping bag is great. I'll show you that once it's all laid out. It really is a beautiful evening up here. Well worth the walk. It was a 7-mile walk in the end and just about 2,000 feet. Nice to be in a new area, and I'm all fully set up now, so I'll give you a quick tour of everything. So as I said, Terra Nova Southern Cross 1 tent, and down here I've got my MSR wind burner stove, I've got my porridge mix for the morning, I've got my collapsible bowl from Sea to Summit, one of my favourite purchases of the last year. I've got my Wayfarer's spicy sausage and pasta and chocolate pudding for dinner. Osprey Exos 48 tucks down neatly, and here is the interior. So this is my Cumulus Outdoor Quilt 250. This is a really lightweight quilt, 500 grams. What you can do is zip up the bottom so you can create a foot box, and then you've got these draw cords so that you draw that end in nice and tight so you don't get drafts coming in from your feet. Of course, you can fully relax these, undo the zip again, which just zips up to your sort of lower legs, unzip that, and then it purely becomes a quilt, just a blanket. And what it also has is these 2 elasticated straps, one here, one here. You just slide those down the sleep mat to where you want them, and then you can unclip the quilt from both of them. And that just means you can get in and out more easily. So if you can see these straps now, these are just threaded down the sleep mat and they hold the quilt in place, which is really helpful. And then of course, if you get too hot in the night, you can just throw it off, keep nice and cool. I've got my Flextail Zero pillow down the end. This is another of my favourite products from the last 6 months or so. So you've got a thin end and a thick end. It does have a strap on the bottom. I have found this is too narrow for my Neo Air X Therm, which is the max regular wide, so it's a particularly wide pad just so I don't fall off the edges. But I don't actually use that because I'm forever turning this round in the night. If I'm on my side, then I'll use the nice thick end to go between my ear and my shoulder basically. But if I'm on my back, I'll turn it round and then I've got the shallower end. I just find that really comfy. If you want to buy one of these, there's a link for this in the description as well, and a 15% discount code. I've got my Flextail Tiny Pump 2X up here. That'll be my lantern for tonight. I've got my spare clothes. I've brought my drone, but it's far too windy for it at the moment. I've got my tent bag, which has also got the pole bag, my quilt bag and every other bag in there. GoPro stuff. I've got my electrical gear here and a new bit of kit for this trip is the Life Systems tick tweezers. So these are some really compact little tweezers. I'll try and pop them out with one hand if I can. And I've bought these because on my last trip to Dartmoor, there you can see them, really small little grabbers for grabbing ticks. So on my last camp to Dartmoor, I got my first ever tick. There seems to be a bit of a population spike of them in the UK at the moment, probably because it's so very warm. I don't know when I picked it up. I think it must have been when I changed out of my shorts into my walking trousers, put my trousers on the ground for 20 or 30 seconds, got changed into them, and then I went about having my dinner and everything else. I didn't find it until I got home the following day, so it must have been there about 18 hours or so, something like that. I presume it must have crawled onto the waistband of my trousers because it had its head buried inside my stomach. So I had to really pull at it to get it out, and eventually did manage to extract it without breaking its head off, which is really important. As you may know, ticks can carry some really unpleasant diseases like Lyme disease, so you have to be really careful. Keep checking yourself. I'm a little bit paranoid about them now, so I do keep checking ankles in particular because that's where they can make their way up your leg. So keep checking for them. Get yourself something like tick tweezers. You can get little twisters which are meant to remove them by twisting them until they come out. There are lots of different methods. Some people say use Vaseline, which apparently is not the way to do it. You shouldn't smother them in Vaseline to suffocate them. The advice seems to keep changing all the time, but I used tweezers when I got home and they worked, so I've picked myself up some tweezers. I can just pull them out whenever I see them now. And on the subject of ticks, what I'm going to do is make sure I zip up the mesh door here on my tent, just to make sure that nothing can crawl in there while I'm outside. And I think it's time to get some food. I was just trying to think where I could sit to eat my food. I'm a little bit paranoid about ticks now, as I said, so I'm not majorly keen on sitting on the grass. But look at this place I found, it's absolutely perfect. So my tent is actually just out of sight now, but it's about there. I'm only 50 meters away. But I found this place. It's the perfect place to sit, to watch the sun go down. And if I just climb up here, got a perfect little seat here. Got everything laid out, so I've got my water bottle, I've got my monocular here, which I really like now because I can just gaze all the way across at the beacons over here and have a closer look at everything. I've got the wind burner, I've got some flapjack, there's my sausage roll, my two main meals, and I'm just going to cook everything up. It's really sheltered from the wind here as well. Bit of a sun trap, so it's nice and warm, so I'm not going to get cold for a long time sitting here, I don't think. So I can just sit here for 2 or 3 hours and switch off and enjoy all of this. This is one of the most relaxing evenings I've had on a camp, I think. It's so nice to have the time just to sit, particularly here because I'm so sheltered from the wind. The rocks are holding some warmth. I've got the right clothes on, got some nice warm food on the go. I've just had my spicy sausage and pasta and my chocolate puddings just warming through now. It's just the perfect temperature. It beats sitting inside a tent, eating your food in the dark, sort of hunched over your sleeping bag. That does feel really cozy in the colder months, I've got to admit, but yeah, just to be able to sit out and take in the nature for hours is perfect. You might be able to hear the skylarks tweeting away, and there are a few sheep all just gathering around me here. They don't seem too fussed by me just because I'm sitting here quietly, just watching that sun go down. I should say thank you to Al from the YouTube channel Cole's Corner, aka the Valley Wanderer. The Valley Wanderer? The Valley Walker. I'll stick the correct name on the screen. But yeah, thanks to Al for suggesting this area to camp in. Al is a very experienced walker. There aren't many hills and mountains around Wales that he hasn't been up and doesn't know like the back of his hand. So thank you to Al for sharing this one. That sun is just starting to hide behind some clouds over there now. The Brecon beacons are kind of tucked away, hidden behind that misty cloud. And you might be able to see slightly better over here now actually. Got Castle Dynus here, And then this is the Dragon's Back, which is a fairly popular walk in this area. I think I'll have my pudding now and get back to you in a bit. That sun has just about gone now, as you can see. Just about to dip below the horizon there. The wind is still quite strong now. I'm not tucked away behind the rocks. As you can see, the tent is still taking it very well. This is a really good demonstration actually of just how good the Southern Cross is in wind. There's no denying that the Hilleberg Solo is a strong tent. I have one myself and it's stood up to some really wild conditions. But the Southern Cross is strong, but also it makes its own life easier just by being so aerodynamic. I mean, I am being blown around a little bit tonight, but the tent's just nice and stable, and that's not going to be too noisy for me in the night either. If you're thinking of buying a tent like the Terra Nova Southern Cross one, do check out my video where I give an honest review of owning this tent for a year. I really enjoy this tent, I highly recommend it, and if you'd like to buy this tent or any other Terra Nova tent, check my link in the description, and there's also a discount code for you there, which is Outdoors20. If you apply that to any full priced items in the Terra Nova shop, you'll get 20% off. What you can also do is trade in your current tent and get 30% off a full price brand new tent. This tent right now, at the time of filming, is on sale. It's down from £700 to £490, which is a 30% discount. If you have any questions about this tent or any of my Terra Nova stuff that I've used, like the footprint, do drop a comment or contact me on Instagram and I'll be happy to share my experiences with you. But for now that that sun has disappeared, it's time for me to get tucked up, and I'll see you again in the morning. Good morning, and what a stunner of a morning it is here in the Black Mountains. It's round about 6:30 now, and I've just been watching the day begin for the last 2 hours or so really. I've been absolutely spoilt for choice. So over in the west here, down at the bottom of the valley there, I've had all the clouds to watch as they wisp and wind their way along the valley, just looking down on the marshmallow, taking its shape for the day. And then over in the east, I've had the sunrise to watch popping up over the top of Penygada Vawr. That was round about 4 to 5 this morning. Watching all the sheep begin their days, watching the ponies as well, slightly lower down. And it's just a stunner. The skylarks were going at about 2 to 3 in the morning. They were raring to go. I was less raring to go. I think I had about 3 hours of sleep, something like that. I just finished cleaning my teeth there and I saw someone pop up over the hill walking towards me. We just had a chat now. Really nice guy. So he was camping up on Wynvac last night, which is straight over here. Just up on here. Penygada Vawr is over here where we saw the sunrise just now. So this fellow was camping up on Wynvac, and he said that he walked up there last night straight after dinner with his family. He arrived at his pitch just before it went dark, and then he was just heading back first thing this morning so he can be home in time for a slightly late breakfast with his 2-year-old child. And that just brings me on to a point I was about to raise anyway. So on my community channel, my YouTube community page, I put a poll up a week or two ago just to see what kind of things can get in the way of you getting out for a camp. So there were the 5 categories you had to choose from, things that sort of prevent you from going out. If I could have modified them, I think I would have changed laziness to laziness/lack of motivation, because that's something I suffer from quite a bit. I even felt a little bit reluctant to come out yesterday. I really don't know why, because I've never regretted coming out for a camp, and to miss scenes like this would just be an absolute crime. So once again, I'm really glad I got myself out of the door, even though I wasn't necessarily 100% keen at the time. So thank you to everyone who voted in that poll. I think there were about 70 people in the end, and 75% of you said that work/life/family commitments are what prevent you from coming out for a camp. So that YouTube poll was a reminder that some of us still find it really difficult to get out around work or family commitments. But this is a reminder just to try and invest that time in yourselves, get out there, go and enjoy your hobby, come and get some peace and quiet like this, come and enjoy these views. They are really good for the mind, good for the heart and soul, and what better way to get out there than go for a walk and spend the night out here just soaking in the views and enjoying the bird song, the sunrise and the daybreak. I have had my breakfast now, and I was also able to get the drone up, so I'm going to show you some of that footage while I get the tent packed away now. Everything's back in my pack now. Where the tent was is all fully cleared. I've been walking around there just to make sure I've dropped no pegs or anything. They're quite easy just to lose in the grass. Leave no trace as usual. So you can still see that the cloud is hanging around down here. There isn't much land visible. And it's fairly clear, a little bit hazy. It's 16 degrees Celsius at the minute, 7:30 in the morning. Funnily enough, there are actually yellow warnings of thunderstorms coming into this region at round about 2 p.m. So I shall be back at the car round about 10 a.m. so I'll be long gone by the time that bad weather comes in. Perfect timing. I saw it all on the forecast and I thought I just have to make the most of that. So it's now time to head along this ridge about 1.5 miles, something like that, and then drop down into the valley below and make my way back to the car. It's really warming up now, so I'm back in my shorts and t-shirt, and this seems like a really good spot just to point out some of the local geography. So right here in centre shot we have Weinvac, which is where I spent that very cold night in winter in the snow and ice. And then over here is Pennegadavaur, which is, believe it or not, 11 meters lower than Weinvac, even though it looks higher and it's a bit more prominent, so it's got a bit more of a peak to it. So what I can see now is this path that's going to take me all the way down this valley, which looks like a nice easy gradient. But if I swing round to the west, at the same elevation, we've got a completely cloud-filled valley. So that's their valley and this is my valley. So I think I've got the better of two valleys today, which I'm really happy about. It's about 4 miles back to the car from here. It looks like nice plain sailing. So I'll leave the video here, I think. Thank you for watching. Please give it a thumbs up if you've liked the video and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more of my adventures, and I'll see you on the next one.